Our magazine started because two photographers wanted to live by the coast, so they had to create a way to do that, so they created a coast magazine. So photos are a really important part of their, the whole concept of coast, and it's a real showcase of their talent as well.
What kind of qualities do people require to work in magazine publishing?
You have to be very brave. I think the thing I say with most jobs is there's not a lot of glamour in many jobs. And before I was a magazine editor, I'd say, I can't wait, you know, I'm just going to sit back and get all this free stuff and it's going to be so much fun. And it's not like that at all. It's a lot of hard work. I think anything to do with publishing, it's you have to be very thorough, you have to be very determined, and you have to be very dedicated, because there's a lot of work. It looks so easy in the finished product, but there's so much work that goes into it.
What made you want to be an editor?
I'm a control freak. No. I think being an editor, it's like any profession. You can be a writer, and that's your passion, but being an editor is a different step, in that you have to be the organiser, the pusher, the person who brings it all together. And I think it's an element of organisational skills, and I've always been like that, as pulling events together, pulling schedules together, all that kind of thing. So that's a lot of what being an editor is about. And I think it's just having that little bit of a way of moulding the magazine, giving it a bit of your stamp. There's a lot of things I'm very passionate about, the environment and Aboriginal issues, music, culture, so there's a lot of things that you can subtly, I suppose, bring to your readers, and that's the great thing about being an editor.
What steps did you take to get to where you are now in your career?
I've sort of had a varied career. I went to uni and I actually studied media, and I also studied environmental issues as well. So communication has always been what I've been about. I've always been in every organisation I've worked for, from government through. I've always been the communications person, doing the writing, doing the putting together. I've done a lot of event management as well. So I didn't study journalism as such. I studied media, and then worked for various organisations, and then was writing articles for Coast, and then they asked me to come on board and be editor. So I think it's a combination of experience in the field of communications, because you do have to have a pretty broad knowledge of a lot of things to just be able to think on your feet. The absolute favourite part of my job is meeting people, the interviews. We focus a lot on just not famous people as such. I mean, that's fantastic to be able to talk to musicians and people you admire, but it's more meeting these incredible people that have just got stories. And I always say, Coast magazine, you'll go for an interview, you'll get a cup of tea and their life story and everything. It's such an honour. The hardest part is, well, deadlines are always, and they're an absolute part of life in publishing. But the hardest part is trying to bring it all together, because you've got, it's probably a bit different in a bigger publication, but there'd be other challenges. But because I oversee not only the editorial side, but the actual whole magazine production, so it's getting everybody to submit their content on time and to be able to coordinate everything that needs to happen to bring it together to that deadline, because you can't miss your deadline. So,
do you have any helpful hints for people who want to be in the industry?
I think the main thing is to offer your services as a volunteer, to go out there and get experience and offer yourself in a really good way. Because I get emails every day, we'd love to come do work experience or whatever. And there's a few that just cut through that I'll read the email and consider. So it's being prepared to be on the ground and do some volunteer work. I think that's really important, and in any industry I think that's the way to go, is get that experience on the ground, have initiative, be helpful, think ahead, be prepared to do what you're asked to be done, and to just maintain I think it's having those contacts, having that experience to get your foot in the door, because across any occupation, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's sad to say, but it really is true. So be yourself, be true to yourself, and put yourself forward.